In just a few hours, California Governor Gavin Newsom set to give what his team is billing as a major announcement on redistricting. Newsom given us a preview in a series of Trump-like social media posts saying he'll push for congressional maps that are more favorable to Democrats after the president's push for more red seats in Texas. And quoting Newsom here, I, your favorite governor, Gavin Christopher Newsom, offered the best, most amazing deal in history. Stop rigging Texas maps and California won't make ours more beautiful. That's just a little sample. Let's bring in former Democratic Senator from California, Barbara Boxer, and former Republican Congressman from Florida, Carlos Curbelo, who's also an MSNBC political analyst. Guys, good to have you. So there's the substance and then there's style here to talk about as well. Let's start with the substance. Senator Boxer, Gavin Newsom is plowing ahead. He's going to do this redistricting, he says, in California, even though Texas hasn't gotten its plan through. Is it the right move? And will California voters get on board, do you think?
I do think so. And I do think it's the right move. Democrats have to fight back. And, you know, we just can't sit back and say, oh, woe is me, this is terrible. Let's step back for a minute and look at the whole situation. Right now, 7 states have nonpartisan commissions that have the authority to draw the lines. The rest of the states don't have it. Out of those 7 states, 6 are Democratic states. So everybody else is gerrymandering. Do I like gerrymandering? No. That means, for the sake of the public listening, it's drawing the lines to benefit one party. But that is the way it is at this point. So if we sit back while Texas goes right forward and answers Trump, who says, I want to find just 5 seats. It's like he wanted to find 11,000 votes. Get me 5 seats. Governor Abbott is absolutely crazed to get this done, bending the knee. So I think Gavin Newsom is right. And by the way, I think that's hysterical that he's adopting the same type of, craziness as Trump is. I mean, you have to have a sense of humor here. And I think that's what he's showing he has. Yeah.
It's entertaining, I guess. Congressman, when you look at those tactics, it is very Trumpian. That all caps. It was an insult-filled message saying the president always chickens out, is weak, has little hands. Of course, we've seen other Trump opponents try to copy his style before, and it doesn't always go well for them. What do you make of this strategy? Is it effective?
Well, it seems like Governor Newsom is taking a page out of the South Park strategy, right? They've been pretty successful here in the early going at making fun of the president, and he thinks this is good for him. He's a Democrat, so I think it will work out. I think Democrats will appreciate this kind of humor. We know that the president usually doesn't. He doesn't really enjoy when people make fun of him. So I think this is Newsom number one, trying to ingratiate himself to Democratic voters, maybe ahead of a potential presidential campaign in 2028. And he's also trying to get under Donald Trump's skin, which sometimes the president does kind of react and shows a little anger. And that would be good for Newsom, too. So I think for him, it makes a lot of sense.
I guess it's an example of fighting fire with fire, but in the war of words in this case. Meanwhile, in Texas, those Democrats are now weighing their end game to return home. They can't stay out of Texas forever. They seem to be declaring victory, even though they won't be able to block the redistricting for good. As the governor there has said, he's just going to call another special session on Friday when this one ends. Here's what state Democratic leader Jean Wu on Meet the Press Now had to say.
We wanted to light a fire. We wanted to light a fire across the nation, warning all other states, all other good Americans, what is in store for them, what the danger is for them.
Senator, were they successful here, or is it still too early to call?
Look, in terms of where they're successful, they took a moral stand, and they took a lot of incoming fire for it in a very bad way. But to me, they're heroes because they did call attention to this. What MAGA likes to do is go after you with a smile on their face, and you don't know you've been had. But I think they've made that point very clearly, and they, frankly, called attention to what redistricting is. This is not an easy topic to explain to people. You know, I've tried my whole life to make it as simple as I can. How do you draw these lines? Who benefits? And let me just say clearly, there are bills right now in the House, and they're bipartisan, to ban gerrymandering, to have these commissions, nonpartisan, draw the lines as the founders really conceived of it. Every 10 years in a fair way, communities of interest are in the same district, and there's no partisan leaning. And as I said, only 7 states did it, and most of those are Democratic. So that's where we stand. Am I grateful to the Texans? I love them. I think they're brave. I think they put themselves out on the line and, you know, for their country. And yes, it helped Gavin Newsom bring the point home here to California. Last point I would make is there are other states that are looking at this. And, you know, this thing could go on, and it may well. You may see more Democratic states doing this and more Republican states doing this. So it's not a pretty picture. I don't like it, but it is what it is. And Democrats are sick and tired of sitting back. We're going to step up, and we are going to, as you said, Anna, fight fire with fire.
An Illinois judge just rejected a request by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton to help arrest Democrats who fled there over a fight on redistricting. Texas Republicans are expected to end their first special legislative session tomorrow after Democrats denied them a quorum, but they will immediately begin a new one, leaving out-of-state Democrats hammering out a plan for when they should return home. Joining me now, Democratic strategist and author of the Salty Politics newsletter on Substack, Julie Roginski. I do love the name of your Substack letter. It's a fun one.
Thanks.
So let's talk about this, because Democrats, they want to be able to frame the fact that they've been out and that they have prevented any new redistricting maps from being drawn during this first special session, right? And they want to say, hey, this is legislative victory for us. Look what we did. But the fact is, you know, the governor said we're going to do back-to-back special legislative sessions until we get this done. And they do want to get back there to give Texas residents some sort of relief with legislation on the flooding.
Right. And
they're between a rock and a hard place.
Look, I don't want to get people's hopes up. This is going to happen in Texas. But what they have accomplished by doing this is bring attention to this issue. And in places like California, that is now about to undergo this whole referendum potentially on changing the way they do redistricting, it's important. It's important as an education tool. It's important to make people outside Texas and inside Texas understand the stakes. It is important to bring attention to this across the country about what exactly is happening, which is a heist of the election. If the Republicans were so sure that their policies were good for the people, they wouldn't need to do this. They would absolutely have fair elections and let the voters vote the way they want to vote, but they know they can't do that next year, which is why they're trying to heist this.
So have they been successful? I mean, you hear Governor Gavin Newsom, he's saying, I'm all in. I'm going to do this. If Texas successfully does this, I'm going to do the same thing to benefit Democrats in California.
He's saying that. Kathy Hochul here in New York is saying that. And they've been successful in getting governors to wake up. Now, what they need to do is educate people in California, because just because Gavin Newsom wants to do this doesn't mean that voters in California are going to allow him. And you have a lot of...
Because he'll do it through vote.
He has to do it through vote.
He's not going to do it by just saying we're doing it amongst ourselves.
Well, you have to change the Constitution in California. That's the difference between Texas and California, and New York as well. And so what ends up happening is that it's an education tool for those voters in California. And my friends in California, if you're listening, I understand this is not how Democrats want to do things. I understand that there's a sense of fairness that Democrats want to play in, but our democracy is at stake. It is critical for us to understand that in this case, the ends justify the means. And what that means is we cannot allow Donald Trump to hijack the House, because if he hijacks the House for another 2 years, we could say bye-bye to our democracy.
But Let me ask you if that message is getting through. The word redistricting, in the past, what that has done is, people start talking about it and their eyes glaze over, right? So has that connection been made that at the root of this is really a challenge to democracy? Do you think that Democrats have done that to the extent that voters across this nation, certainly those in Texas, will stand up and say, hang on, I don't want democracy to falter because of this?
Well, what Texas is doing, look, just because Republicans are going to go through with these maps doesn't mean that it's great for Republicans. These maps are not a slam dunk for the Republicans. Are they going to pick up 5 seats? I'm not so sure. I mean,
tonight is Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas, and it's great to have you back here, Congresswoman. And when you hear what Chuck Schumer says there, do you really think, I mean, given Democrats are in the minority, that Republicans would not go along with a request from the president to extend his federal takeover of the police here in Washington?
I mean, I think that the Republicans could care less about the law or the Constitution. I think what you heard from the minority leader is basically, listen, no matter what he tries, then we will make sure that the courts are involved and make sure we give over the information, which is the law. The fact that he's taken over D.C. in the first place, invoking emergency powers, that basically is what he wants to do his entire presidency. And frankly, the only emergency that we've had is the fact that he somehow made it back into the White House. That is how he decided that he was going to somehow initiate the Enemy Aliens Act. It's how he decided that he was going to go about taking over D.C. It's how he decided he was going to invade the city of Los Angeles. It is time for us to get back to actual democracy, which is not an emergency, not to mention the tariffs. He's also invoked emergency powers during the tariffs. And the reality is that he is the only one that is creating the crisis.
Well, if there is a vote on that, do you believe that some of your Democratic colleagues would say, well, I might vote for this, given the crime numbers in D.C., while not as bad as the president says they are not great, and that, Democrats fear maybe looking soft on crime if they voted against something like that?
I don't think so. I mean, we'll see. Obviously, we're on recess, and so I've not had an opportunity to speak with members about this, but truly, this cannot be coming from the party of small government. I think we may even end up...
What we're seeing here is karma in action. As Jasmine Crockett and others have pointed out, there's a fitting American saying, I only recently heard the dog that caught the car. Republicans have spent years trying to rig the system, and rig is putting it mildly. Let's be honest. Their efforts to tilt the system in their favor trace back to their spiritual ancestors from the Jim Crow era up to today. Whether it's shutting down ID offices in poor and black communities to suppress voter registration, or the outright insurrection on January 6th, Republicans have consistently worked to make voting harder. Why? Because they know that when more people vote, they usually lose. Not always, but often. Another tactic isn't just blocking votes, but rendering them meaningless, either by splitting like-minded voters apart or packing them into a single district to dilute their influence. That's gerrymandering, and Republicans have mastered it for decades. Democrats have done it too, but nowhere near as aggressively. In fact, most states that have adopted independent, nonpartisan redistricting, like many other democracies, have been led by Democrats. But now, Republicans have awoken a sleeping giant. States like California and likely New York are responding in kind. Even if Texas fails in its latest power grab, the message is clear. If Republicans insist on playing this dirty game, they're about to win a very stupid prize. And let's be clear, this loss reverberates everywhere. This is a Donald Trump loss. A loss for every red state, every GOP stronghold. As long as Hakeem Jeffries or any future Democratic speaker holds the gavel, Trump and every Republican, whether from Alabama, Missouri, or Mississippi, are all weaker because of it.